Good afternoon. My name is Robert Walker, and I'm Brand Manager for RetirementHomes.com. Welcome to our June webinar. We are North America's leading online sales and marketing solutions provider, including our housing directory, our online library, and e-newsletters. We also offer, free of charge to senior living professionals, the top experts in senior living every month who will share their knowledge in the fields of marketing, research, sales, and related areas in webinars such as the one you're about to hear. This month, we welcome Kevin Williams of SeniorMarketing.com. Kevin's presentation, Marketing Myths, Misconceptions, and Money Pits to Avoid at Any Cost, will share the basics of lead tracking for senior living professionals and how you can make the most of your marketing dollars. There will be a question and answer session at the end of the presentation. If you would like a question answered, raise your hand at the toolbar to the right, type in your question, and time permitting, it will be answered at the end of the session. And of course, you are also welcome to ask a question any time during the webinar itself. Please welcome Kevin.
Thank you, Robert, and thank you everyone on the call today. I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to listen to us. And I want to thank Robert again and RetirementHomes.com for the service you guys provide. It's great, and everyone on the call, I encourage you to check them out. It's a valuable service. So like Robert said, today's topic of conversation is marketing money traps to avoid at all costs. And before I begin, I'd just like to say how, marketing was not something that was talked about as much even just a few years ago in this industry. Nothing like it is today. If you go to a trade show today or a conference today, there's a dozen, 15 or more marketing companies specific to senior living, and now there's all types of internet marketing companies out there too. And I'm sure Robert can tell you that the amount of competition they've seen at RetirementHomes.com, and even the last 2 years alone, has increased dramatically. So marketing has become a major topic in this industry, and for good reason. There's more communities than ever, and consumers have choices today. So I live near Farmington, Connecticut, and just in this small little town, there's got to be 15 or more communities that seniors and their adult children can choose from, and within just a few minutes drive. So, even if you're in cities, it's even more competitive. So the way to fix that and the way to stand out is to become a great competitor. And one of my favorite quotes, Sun Tzu in The Art of War said, the person with superior forces at the point of contact wins. And when, this is very true in senior living, because when you have superior marketing forces and superior forces at the point of contact when somebody's looking for senior living, you're going to win their business most of the time. And because of this rise in marketing, there's confusion in the market, and there's terms like PPC, SEO, CTR, CPM these days. And unless you're a marketing major or you've been in marketing for a long time, there's a lot of confusion out there. And we're fortunate enough to speak to people across the industry, all across the country, every single week, and we get this sense of confusion and overwhelm. People are confused of what to spend money on, what not to, what to believe, what not to believe. And, this is a webinar I can't see right now, but hopefully I'm getting some nodding heads right now. So before we move on, I'd just like to say, as a way for us saying thank you to, taking your time out and learning today, we have some very valuable gifts and handouts at the end. Not just from us at SeniorMarketing.com, but Robert's got some valuable gifts for you too at the end. And if you stick around to the end, we're going to tell you about those. And they're not just fluff; they're actually stuff to help you in your business. And we'll give you instructions on how to get those at the end. So, like I said, we're fortunate enough to have conversations with people around the country, and the first marketing problem, or the number one marketing problem we hear, is that marketing appears to be expensive, and it really can be. But the truth is, you should never view marketing as an expense. Obviously, on your P&L sheet, it's going to be an expense, but in your mind, you should view it as an investment, because let's say you spend $5,000 on a marketing campaign and you get a couple residents from those or from that campaign. Obviously, those residents are going to be worth more than $2,500 each, and that's a good return on investment. So I'm going to cruise through these problems. I don't want to focus too much on the negative here. Marketing problem number 2 is marketing is extremely difficult to track scientifically. So, a lot of times we'll see executives with these very fancy calculations trying to come up with their, tracking their marketing. And, it's really something you want to do, because if you look at marketing as an investment and you compare it to, say, a stock or maybe a mutual fund, or maybe you're investing gold these days, not tracking the performance of your investment is going to be very frustrating. Imagine logging into your brokerage account, if you have a Fidelity account or an E-Trade account, and not being able to see how your investments are performing in any way, shape, or form. You're not going to want to continue to invest in those investments. And if all you could do was one day see if you had a loss or a gain, you're just not going to continue to do that. So, having marketing that's hard to track creates this belief that marketing is an expense and it's not an investment, and that's a natural response when you have no visibility into your efforts. And we're going to fix that for you today. We're going to give you a simple way to track your return on investments. So the third problem we hear is that people chase shiny new objects every day. And I've got Twitter and Facebook up here. I don't mean to pick on them, but I'm going to anyways today. They're very popular, and they're very powerful companies, and they have a lot of use in many businesses. And they certainly are becoming more and more valuable in this industry. And particularly Facebook and senior living, I think it's a great way to stay in touch with residents and their families, and the activities that are happening. But I just want you to be aware of that. It is still a shiny new object, and even internet marketing in itself can be considered a shiny new object, because what shiny new objects do is they cause you to quit on the fundamentals that got you to the success of where you are today. And it's not a majorly wrong thing to do, but technology is rapidly advancing, and there's going to be a lot more changes in the coming years, and you need to be aware of getting distracted from the fundamentals. We're in the basketball finals right now, and if you think of a basketball game with a layup or a shot inside the box, or a simple pick and roll, that's all fundamental basketball stuff. But that's not the stuff that gets people up and out of their chairs and cheering. The stuff that does that is the dunk or the three-point shot late in the game. That's the stuff that's sexy and shiny and new, and that's what people get excited about. So the same is true of social media and Facebook and Twitter and internet marketing. So it's certainly, it's becoming more and more prevalent to get new residents, build better relationships, and collect reviews and testimonials. But at the end of the day, it's just another media. And in addition to that, it's also very hard to track these types of medias. So that's another thing you have to be aware of. So marketing problem number 4. So, surprisingly, we hear this a lot. What exactly is marketing? Is it the same as advertising? Is it the same as sales? And if we ask what you do for marketing, people will say, oh, we do yellow pages, we do internet marketing, we do referral websites. And that's not wrong by any means, but it's incomplete. So I've created a definition which I think encapsulates what marketing is for this industry, and it's a holistic process of activities that are aimed at attracting residents, keeping them, and increasing their value to your organization. So that's pure genius, brought to you by Kevin Williams, and that's my attempt at dry humor right there. So marketing is everything you do, from business cards to the sign in front of your community, to the lighting, to the clothing your staff wears, the way your staff interacts with residents, the condition of the room you're touring, to if you sponsor a local baseball team and you get a banner, what you say on that banner, most communities would put their logo and a phone number and a website, and that's the wrong thing to do. You really fully need to think through that strategy. So marketing is everything you do from A to Z to attract residents, keep them staying longer, and increase their value to you. So all that has to do with marketing. And if you want a definition of marketing by a much smarter person than me, then you could go to Webster's Dictionary. So moving on, here's an absolute marketing truth. Smart marketing will bring you a boatload of NOI. And NOI, if you don't know what that means, is net operating income. So, the past few years have been tough in senior living. The economy's tough, the crash and everything, and sales cycles are becoming longer. But some communities are having their best years ever. And why is that? Well, it's because they're tracking their marketing and they're following smart marketing formula that I'm going to teach you today. And to tell you another story that parallels, and a lot of people find this fascinating, I have a friend who, he's a carpenter, and all throughout high school and college, he went home on the weekends to work and become a carpenter. He wanted to become a master carpenter, and he got his degree in business so he could launch his own business eventually. And a few years after college, right around, this was maybe 6 months to a year after the crash, he came to me and said, look, I want to start my own business now, but all my competitors, everybody out there is scared. These are contractors who didn't necessarily have the business education that he had, and they relied on word of mouth, and that really hit them hard because they didn't know how to generate business in any other way. So he had business education and a little bit he knew he had to invest in order to make business work for him. So he came to me and he said, look, I need to come up with a plan. Can you help me? And so I went through and we did some research, and at the time he lived in an affluent town, and it was big enough where he could survive off of just that town. So what we did was we built him a website and focused on just that town, and we had him positioned in the search engine results for top results in all those phrases that somebody in the town would search, like bathroom remodeling, kitchen remodeling, basement remodeling. So when someone searched, they would go to his site and they would see relevant information about whether it was a kitchen, bathroom, or whatever. And we got him positioned on the search engines. And in addition to that, we knew that wasn't going to be enough to launch his business. So what we did was we came up with a direct mail campaign, and it was going to be a 3-part letter series to all the affluent homes in that town. I think we chose homes that were over values of $400,000 at the time, and we came up with a few hundred homes, and we came up with a 3-part letter series that we were going to mail. Every 2.5 weeks we would mail a new letter if people didn't respond, and we had an offer. He was going to discount his prices just so he can get going in the beginning. And the net result of that is within 6 months' time, he got a 6-month home edition that was worth over $200,000 to him, and he got additional business beyond that, and it really kick-started his business, and he had to hire help right away. So, that pales to the kind of money we're dealing with in senior living, but I just wanted to show you how, smart marketing can get you out of a hole an apparent hole when your competitors are drowning around you, and you're using smart tactics and they're not. So marketing serves one purpose, and that's to get you new customers and to increase their value, and that's pretty obvious. The more residents you have, the more opportunities you have to ethically and morally increase their value. You can either sell them other services or you can get referrals from them. So marketing used to be a back burner item, but now it's front and center, and it really is the difference between communities that are barely surviving and those that are thriving in this industry. So we talked about some of the problems and some of the beliefs out there. Why don't we talk about some of the tracking methods and how people are tracking their marketing? So I have the title here, Incomplete Tracking Method number 1. These are tracking phone numbers. They're a fantastic tool, but they aren't the entire picture. I bet most of you have heard of tracking phone numbers. They're fantastic. We sell them, and a lot of people sell them, and they're pretty prevalent in the industry, but they're not the entire picture, and that's because they only tell you where that person got your phone number that moment. If someone happens to drive by your community for the past 10 years on their way to work, and one day their parent has a fall, and they go to the internet, do a search, and your internet ad happens to have a unique tracking number on it, all you're going to get from that phone call is that this person called you from that internet ad. You're not going to get their entire history. So I just want you to know that it's a little incomplete. With that being said, though, they are still valuable because you know where the calls are coming from as they are coming in. You can listen to recordings and see how your staff is doing answering the phone. So for sales purposes, and if tours are down, you can go back and listen to the conversations. Besides the story I mentioned earlier, you're still going to know where the majority of your traffic is coming from, and you're going to get reporting and analytics. But just to be sure that this is an incomplete method. It's not foolproof. And I don't know about you, but I've never received a call that paid me money. I've got to get a customer to do that. So certainly don't stop with tracking phone numbers, but understand that they're just part of the puzzle. Incomplete tracking method number 2. So we have a person that asks, how did you hear about us, and even asks what number in the yellow pages if they say the yellow pages. So if you're doing this, I just want to say you're making a huge mistake, and I'm not trying to offend anyone, but there's 2 reasons why. So first, when a prospect is calling in, they don't care about your marketing tracking efforts, and you have the same problem that you do with tracking numbers, that you never know if this person drove by your community for the past 10 years. Second, and this isn't the topic of today's conversation, but I feel obliged to tell you that you're interrupting a crucial process of getting a visit to your community, of getting that tour. When a marketing director or admissions person answers the phone, their number 1 job is more of a discovery process. You want to build rapport and trust with this person. You want to figure out their buying criteria, figure out what they're looking for in a community, and then align your benefits with that criteria, and then get a commitment to a tour. And nowhere in that process did I say, ask them how they've heard about you. And now with tracking phone numbers today, you can have, we have a technology that has a whisper feature where as a person answering the phone picks up the phone, they're going to hear a little whisper of the source of that call. So if you're running different promotions, or if you have an event that you're hosting at your community and you're offering you have different promotions out there for the event, you can get this whisper to alert you of the event, or that this call came from that particular promotion for the event, and you can act accordingly. So I don't know about you, but I'd rather have a full community than a half-full community, but yet know where everybody came from. And so if you have people who are asking where people are coming from, then I would stop this and come up with something new. It's too harmful to getting someone to commit to a tour. So incomplete tracking method number 3. My marketing firm tells me how low my cost per exposure or lead is, and you can see I have this picture here that really is a big pile of BS. And I'd like to clarify that if you have an arrangement with a company where you're buying buying leads on a fixed cost basis, that's perfectly fine, but there's more you need to know. What I'm referring to is marketing companies that work, they're selling you on this phenomenon on, oh, your cost per lead is low. And I really care. I'm a caring guy, and I want you to understand that this isn't necessarily in your best interest, because it goes back to what I said earlier, how a phone call doesn't pay you money. Well, a lead doesn't pay you money either. You need to get a customer. And I strongly encourage you reconsidering if you have a marketing company that's selling you on this low cost per lead. And let me explain why. Because anybody can generate leads. In this day of internet marketing, I could come to you and say, okay, I'm going to set up a internet marketing campaign, and I'm going to set up a Google AdWords advertising campaign. So if you don't know what Google AdWords is, real quick I'll explain. You're going to bid on keywords and phrases that your prospects would type into the search engines, and when those phrases are searched upon, your ad will be displayed, and when somebody clicks on that ad, you're going to get charged a certain fee. So I could come to you and say, we're going to set up a Google AdWords campaign, and I could, if you're not necessarily educated in the phrases that people are typing, I can bid on a whole bunch of non-related phrases that can potentially generate leads, but they're not going to be quality leads. And in addition to that, I can advertise outside your geographic location. So I can go up to 50 miles or more, and when those leads are not necessarily going to be worth anything to you, because they may or may not, but most likely they're certainly not, because like I said before, in my small town Farmington, there's 15 communities, and there's more and more competition. So in addition to that, a lot of these companies will take 15% of your ad spend and pocket that as profit. So they want you to spend more. They have an incentive to get you to spend more, and I just don't find that ethical. In addition to, I talked a little bit about online marketing, we can talk a little bit about offline marketing. Let's say I could come to you and say, okay, we're gonna do a direct mail campaign and host an event at your community, and the promotion we're going to run is we're going to give people a $100 Visa gift card, we're going to give them free lunch, and we're going to have some sort of entertainment event. What you're actually advertising there is the $100 gift card, the free lunch, and the entertainment. You're not necessarily advertising the benefits of your community, and you're going to get a lot of leads, and your cost per lead is going to be low, but your cost to acquire a new resident is going to be very high. And that's another thing that it's not ethical, and if you're only focusing on cost per leads, you can get into trouble that way. So if you're using this metric, I would throw it out as fast as someone asking over the phone how they heard about you. So incomplete tracking method number 4. We hear this the most common is we don't track our marketing, we just stay within our budget. And you can see the guy there, he's blindly just pointing to a number, and people they'll either stay in their budget or they'll listen to their ad reps of how much they should be spending. And when I ask how their budget's created, they say, oh, we just go off what we spent last year. And if you may be currently doing that, and I'm not intending to be condescending or to talk down to you in any way, my heart is sincerely in the right place when I say that. I don't want you to be wasting money on marketing. I want you to see its true advantage. So I want you to reach a high level, within your community, and you should be tracking your marketing. And it's not that complicated, and it's just so important. It's just like tracking your investments. If you have personal investments, and you really want to track those investments, and you really want to track your marketing. So you need to be setting budgets that are based on other things than what you spent last year. So moving on to the realistic and most effective way to track the performance of your marketing budget. First you must understand the lifeblood of smart marketing, which is the lifetime resident value, your cost per resident acquisition, your profit per resident per medium, and your return on investment per medium. So what I mean by per medium is the media you're using to advertise, whether it's Yellow Pages or a referral company or your referral strategies. That's what I mean by medium. So you need to know your profit per resident per Yellow Pages, per internet marketing, etc. And we focus exclusively on senior living, and everything we do is focused on the lifeblood of smart marketing. And I'm going to go into what each of these is in just a minute. So the first one is the average lifetime resident value. When we talk to people, I'd say maybe 5, maybe 10%, more like 5% actually know this number. And this is really important. This is the foundation of all your marketing, and this is how your budget is formed and everything. So if you don't know the lifetime resident value, how much a resident is worth to you, then that's like buying real estate without having it appraised. And, many people would say that, that's just insane to do. And it really is. So this is the value in dollars that a customer is worth to you on average, and it can be done globally, but it should be done by service type. What I mean by service type is, if your community is independent living or assisted living or skilled nursing, you should know this number by service type, but certainly start with a global example. And I have an example here of just working with industry averages. Average stay, we have 21 months times the average rent is $3,300, and the lifetime value is $69,300. And the importance of that is something we're going to go into in just a minute. And I just want to say, don't let this be overwhelming. I'm going to talk about a little, small, simple calculations here, but it's not something you have to know tonight. I'll provide Robert the slides after the presentation, so you can see this and walk back through it yourselves. But definitely start with the global lifetime value, because I think it will shock you. Many people have no idea how much the residents are worth, and when they do, it's really shocking. Knowing that your residents are worth around $70,000 a piece is huge. And if you knew that, you'd start taking your phone calls and your marketing much more seriously. So the next lifeblood of smart marketing is cost per resident acquisition. So how much money it costs you to get a new paying resident, not a lead. And also, this should be done globally, but it could be done by, or it can be done globally, but should be done by marketing medium. And to calculate this, I have an example here. Let's say you have a $10,000 a month budget, and you get 3 new residents from that. Those residents cost $3,333 to generate those. So you should know this by marketing medium. So you should know your cost per resident acquisition, per yellow pages, per internet marketing, per direct mail, etc. The next lifeblood of smart marketing is marketing profit per resident. So what each resident is worth to you after you factor in the cost to acquire them. And this can be done globally, but it's much more important to do by medium. And there's a lot, if you're in accounting or finance out there and you're saying, okay, well, what about overhead and expenses and employee time? Well, that's certainly important, and you should factor that in later. But right now, we're strictly looking at marketing, and you'll see in a minute why, because it helps calculate your return on investment, and that's something we need to know before you factor that in. But certainly, the complete financial picture is going to be a little different. But this is just strictly marketing I'm talking about. So to calculate this, you take your lifetime resident value, which we came up with is $69,300, minus your cost to acquire them, $3,333 equals your profit per resident of $65,697. So the next one is your marketing return on investment. And to figure this out, you need the investment for each strategy, the number of leads, the number of residents, your profit per resident, your lifetime customer value on a per median basis. And I'm going to walk you through an example of this so you can see this. And I'm going to break away here and just go over to the internet for a minute. So we've created a everything I've been going through. I just want to illustrate to you in a this is a console we've designed, so it tracks all these investments for you, and I just want to illustrate the importance of knowing those numbers. So like I said before, the lifetime customer value, this is the foundation of all your efforts, and this this is something that you would plug in and we can change. And you can see over here you have your marketing strategy. So you want to know on a per medium basis how each marketing strategy is performing. You can see we have pay-per-click at $2,000 a month, SEO $2,000 a month, and it's important to look at your monthly investments: newspapers, yellow pages, referral strategy, events, and referral company. So we put referral strategy in there because, say you have referral cards, and you have maybe it costs you $1,000 to print out your referral cards for the year, so we just divide that by, or it was $1,200, and divide that by 12 to get the number of, your monthly investment. So you could add strategy rows, export, and everything. And the real value I want to talk about is, our customers keep this open on their desk daily, and as leads come in, they punch these numbers in, and as they turn to customers, they change these numbers, and the real value is knowing how each medium is performing. So you could see that, with pay-per-click, you've got 40 leads generated, 2 customers generated. We have cost per lead there, which, we keep in there. I told you before that it's not a very important metric, but we keep it in there for conversion rate purposes. And then you have your cost to acquire this customer, your profit per resident, and your return on investment. And these last 3 columns here are what, if you log into, say your brokerage account, you're going to want to see your performance numbers, and that's what these numbers represent, so your return on investment. And the real value of tracking your marketing strategies is because over time, you'll be able to see how each individual strategy performs. So you can see here, this Yellow Pages this month, we've got 15 leads, but we got no new residents out of it. So if you were measuring cost per lead, you'd say, oh, $66 per lead, and compared to a newspaper ad, that's not that bad. You would think that would be performing better, but that didn't generate any new residents. So over a series of months, you can watch these, and if this continues, Yellow Pages continues to perform poorly, you're going to want to change that. You can adjust this budget and allocate more resources into something that's more productive. So we see, our referral strategy, that's a ridiculous percentage, but it's not like you can necessarily invest more money into referrals. So let's look at the next best performing medium. So we've got 6,000, 4,000, 8,000% for events. Oh, look, our referral company is producing at 9,000. Maybe we'll take our Yellow Pages budget and put that into our referral companies next year or in the next coming months when our contract is up. So that's where the real value comes in, because you're improving your marketing efficiency, and you're getting more bang for your buck, and you're going to get more more residents, and it's going to become more efficient and produce better for you. So let me go back to the presentation. Okay, so I just want to say before we conclude everything that big companies in publishing and direct response and mailing companies, they understand, because they're tracking their marketing scientifically and down to the dollar, that they understand that it's 100% okay to break even to acquire a customer because of all the other doors it opens. At that point, they've done all the heavy lifting and the hard work, and they understand that they've formed this relationship with this person, and it's okay to break even at the front end because there's a back end. There's all this value to forming this relationship. And when you think about how much a resident is worth to you, this is huge, and it's okay to, if it costs you the first month's rent, then that's okay because of all the other value, that they're going to deliver to you and you're going to deliver to them, and they're going to be a source of referrals, hopefully, etc. And that's it. So I just want you to understand that it's okay to break even to acquire a customer. Okay, so like I mentioned earlier, we have some free gifts, and I just want to say, this is our way of saying thank you for hanging out and learning this materials with us today. The first one we have is our first off, I'm going to go through the gifts I have, and then Robert will go through the valuable gifts that he has for you.
Yes, thank you, Kevin.
Yeah, okay. So the first one we have is 60-day free trials to these 3 programs we have: the Senior Living Analytics Elite. That's the ROI console I just showed you. We're going to give that to you for 60 days. We'll give you access to it. You can log in and play in it like it's a sandbox, and just try out the different strategies and different ways of tracking your marketing efforts. The next one is the Marketing Director Elite. This is a training program in sales, customer service, and marketing for marketing directors, anybody involved with residents or prospects too. And the last one is our email marketing elite program, which is it's like a tireless salesperson. So if you get a prospect that you have their email information, you can put them into our emails marketing elite program, and this will, kindly, gently, and nicely follow up with them over a series of weeks, displaying your community's benefits to them, and nicely get them to take a desired action. And the last gift we'll give you is a free marketing 30-minute marketing tune-up call. And I just want to say that this tune-up call is not a thinly disguised sales pitch. I guarantee that this is really a value-added call for you, because we're actually going to require you to fill out an evaluation that it's like a detailed evaluation. Like if you were to go see a doctor, you have to fill out an evaluation, and going through this will help us determine the holes in your marketing and any major hang-ups you're having. And we'll go to your website and give your website an audit, and really come to the call. It will be me and my partners, and we'll come to the call with 30 minutes of action-packed advice for you to take away and go implement in your business, whether it's how to get your positions higher in the search engines, or something you can set up with a referral strategy, or some other marketing hang-up you might be having. And if you'd like those gifts, you can send an email to info@seniormarketing.com and just write in the subject, free gifts from webinar, and we'll get those out to you.
Excellent.
Yeah, go ahead, Robert.
Thank you, Kevin. And again, everyone, we'll be doing questions just in a minute as well. Just want to run through this in a moment. So again, from retirementhomes.com, and certainly you can feel free to redeem both. For the webinar, you can send me an email right at the bottom, robert@retirementhomes.com. You get a complimentary online directory listing upgrade. You'll get a 3-month free pilot of our lead management system tool. And you'll also have access to a free webinar, How Nanotechnologies Can Grow in Your Senior Living Business. Again, you can contact me, robert@retirementhomes.com there as well. So, Kevin, we do have a question, and I want to mention as well, if you do have a question, anybody, the toolbar to the right, if you just type in, raise your hand there, and we'll get to you, and then you can ask your question directly. We do have a couple questions. One of them is, you mentioned that it's 100% okay to break even when you are acquiring a new resident. Does that create any issues with cash flow, however?
Yeah, there was one caveat I should have mentioned on that. You have to make sure it works within your community. It's going to be unique to everybody. Because exactly, you could result, if it does result in cash flow issues, maybe you have more overhead than another community, and you could run into some issues. But with that being said, it's still, if it's costing you, however much to acquire a resident, and you're spending, let's say you're spending $2,500 to acquire a new resident. Once you figure out your cost per resident acquisition, it's okay to spend, it's okay for that to be the first month's rent. But you need to, you probably need to work with your finance people and figure out if that's feasible for your community.
Okay, and Kevin, just before you continue, can you just pull up our contact page, just so if anyone has any further questions, they'll have all the further information there as well. Perfect, there it is. So we do have another question as well. So one of them was, essentially, can the recommendations that you are providing can be applied to a small 14-bed community?
Yes, it definitely can be, and it should be, even more so because if you only have 14 beds, losing one of those beds can be huge to your cash flow, and sorry, not losing one of those beds, or having an unoccupied bed is huge to your huge dent on your cash flow. And if you only have 14 beds, and you might have a smaller marketing budget than someone else that has, say 150 beds, and you need to, more so be responsible with your marketing dollars than that person that has a little bit more, cushion to work with. And we have clients that have 15 beds, and they certainly appreciate knowing their marketing dollars are working for them, and how much they're working for them, because they're eliminating strategies that aren't working for them, and they're able to put resources into mediums that are working for them.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Kevin. Again, we have another question here as well. Is having an open house beneficial, and how would you go about attracting residents and prospects to that open house?
Yeah, an open house is always beneficial, and there's various ways to attract people to the open house. You can either put a call to action on your homepage, for a limited amount of time and have it lead to a sign-up form on the web page, or submit press releases to your local papers, even direct mail, and all the strategies, even over social media. If you do have a good social media presence with with your current residents, and ask them to, or not just your current residents, your current families, their families, and you ask them to say, announce the date to anyone they would know, and that's that's another way. But yeah, direct mail, press release, and call to action on the homepage.
And I would just want to add something as well, Donna, who asked that question. We actually had a webinar a couple months ago on a similar topic. It was called Designing Your Community to Turn Tours into Move-In. So essentially it was a little bit different, but it was basically, once you have a tour, how to use that to turn these tours into move-ins. And again, you can access that at youtube.com/retirementhomes, which is right on the screen there, but I just wanted to include that as well. So thank you again, Kevin, for that great insight as to how we can measure our marketing budgets effectively. Again, that was Kevin Williams of seniormarketing.com. Starting July 2nd, retirementhomes.com is launching a lead tracking and management system that can save you time, qualify your leads, and can measure the effectiveness of your traditional and online marketing efforts. Again, to get a 90-day free trial, ask your account executive for more details. Again, you can contact me, Robert, at retirementhomes.com. Once again, contact me to reserve your spot for July's webinar, and visit retirementhomes.com for more information. Have a great day.